Okay, good evening, everyone. Today, we need to discuss about internal control, overseas and trade receivable system to recommend improvement. Okay, and proceed to the manager.
Good evening and thank you for coming to this meeting. Okay, sorry. Good evening and thank you for coming to this meeting, dear attendees. I will be your secretary for today as our secretary is unable to attend the meeting. Apologize of absence was received by Ms. Alia and Mr. Adam as they are unable to attend the meeting. This meeting due to an unavoidable problem and send their representative to take their place. There was a mistake from the last meeting's minutes, which is item number 1, paragraph 1, where dates of the meeting between the auditors team and the shareholder, which is on 1st of July, not 31st of July.
Yes, the shareholders were confused by the date and flooded the committee with questions. It was then corrected and has been informed to the shareholders.
All right, thank you for the information. We shall proceed with the meeting now.
Okay, thank you for the Mr. Secretary. The reason I call meeting for today is to discuss and plan out the future of the company's auditing teams and all the system needed to strengthen our audit system and our audit teams. It would be my pleasure to hear suggestions from the auditor team itself on this matter.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. To start our meeting for today, as requested by the President, to our newly employed junior auditor, the President would like to hear your finding about the ISA and MASA. As you were asked to do some research about those two bodies to understand both of the bodies and its role in the auditing community.
All right, now we're going to proceed to ISA and MASA. International Standards on Auditing, ISA, are professional standards that address the independent auditor's obligations when performing a financial audit of financial data. The International Federation of Accountants, IFAC, provides that these standards through the International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board, IASB. The ISA comprise requirements and goals, as well as application and other supporting documentation. The auditor is required to understand the whole language of an ISA, including its application and additional explanatory information, to be aware of the goals and to apply the requirements correctly. Next is we're going to MASA. Malaysian approved standards on quality control, auditing, review, other assurance, and related services of the Malaysian Institute of Accountants, MIA, are based on the international standards on quality control, international standards on auditing, international auditing practice statements, international standards on review engagements, international standards on assurance engagements, and but not least, international standards on related service, IFSC. The second edition of the Malaysian Certified Standards on Auditing includes all international standards on auditing and international auditing practice statements approved by the Council of the Malaysian Institute of Accountants prior to March 1999.
Okay, so what are the differences that you can conclude between those two bodies?
All right, the difference between those two bodies is for International Standards on Auditing, ISA, it was made by International Federation of Accountants, IFAC, through the International Auditing and Assurance Standard Board. But when we go to the Malaysian Approved Standard of Auditing, MASA, it was made by Malaysian Institute of Accountants, MIA, and member of International Federation of Accountants, IFAC. Other than that, for the International Standards on Auditing, it was applied internationally, while for the Malaysian Approved Standard of Auditing, it only applies in Malaysia. Sorry.
Thank you for the weighty explanation. Let's proceed with the next agenda. Questions are directed to our senior auditors.
Yes, Mr. Secretary.
As the world of technology is growing rapidly, we are introduced to the latest internal control system. Can you enlighten us and our junior auditor, especially about the ICS and its components?
Yes, absolutely. So to start, internal control is a procedure carried out by an entity board of directors, management and other people that is intended to offer reasonable assurance, such as that information is trustworthy, accurate and timely in terms of adhering to applicable rules, regulation, contracts, policies, procedures in terms of the dependability of financial reporting. Internal controls are also the frameworks used by a company to manage risk and reduce the likelihood of extortion. The control climate, the accounting framework, and control exercises compose the internal control structure. A correctly planned and functioning internal control system will not eliminate the chance of misfortune, but it will reduce it. Varied organizations confront various types of risk, but when internal control measures are inadequate, the doors open for extortion, exploitation of the organization's resources, and representative or working environment corruption. Moving on to its component, the first element is the control environment. This is the board's and their employees' attitude on the demand for internal controls. If the controls are taken seriously, the power of internal control structure is much improved. The following component is risk assessment. This is the approach of studying the business to determine whether the most fundamental threats are and then creating controls to mitigate those dangers. This evaluation should be conducted on a regular basis to examine any new risk introduced by changes in the business. Aside from that, control actions are regarded as a component of internal control. This involves the use of accounting standards, data innovation, and other assets to ensure that suitable controls are put up and running properly. For example, accounting systems may be set up to periodically direct stock checks and fixed resources reviews. Furthermore, there may be off-site reinforcement to reduce the chance of data loss. Information should be made available to the management as soon as feasible so that any flaws may be addressed. The amount of data presented should be appropriate for the needs of the receiver. As a result, significant control failures should be reported to the upper management as soon as possible. While small ones can be managed at a lower administrative level, last but not least, there is monitoring. This is a set of cycles used by the board to check and evaluate whether its internal controls are functioning properly. In an ideal scenario, the board would be able to notice control disappointments and make measures to improve the control environment. If not, an ineffective or ineffective control may allow mistakes to enter budget reports. Hard controls are both formal and visible. Organizational structure, policies, processes, and duty segregation are some examples. Soft controls are casual and ephemeral. Tone at the top, ethical atmosphere, honesty, trust, and competency are some examples.
As we all know, the CIS is evolving rapidly. Can you explain generally about it?
Yes, of course. Computer information system is the application of technology in the management of company demands. So you'll be able to put your technical talents to use in a commercial context. Students majoring in computer information learn how to work with a company's IT system to address operational problem. The function of computer information system is the act of managing connections between physical devices and their software. Information technology is a subsection of computer information system, IT. Most businesses use IT to store information and databases. These databases collect data, organize it, and make it available for retrieval. While computer is an intrinsically versatile instrument, companies often employ a networked set of computers to gather, organize, store, and send data. A computer information system is another name for this network. Professionals in the field of computer information systems seek to maximize the use of networked computer in a corporate settings?
How would affect our ICS if we use an advanced CIS?
So how would it affect our internal control system for transaction processing? Transaction processing systems often manage the routine day-to-day activities of enterprises. These electronic devices execute and record simple operations. The transaction processing systems, for example, would most likely be employed to control inventories or track wages. And system for information management, companies that collect massive volumes of data rely on management information system to convert that data into usable formats such as reports and data summaries. These systems are designed to aid organizational administrators and managers in making choices by providing information on the many activities that occur inside the business. The next, system for decision making. The decision support system is sophisticated computer information system that assists organizational leaders in making decisions when the potential consequences are unknown. Computer information system professionals create the system to execute complicated activities, including completing calculations, modeling data, comparing data sets, and predicting the outcomes of scenarios based on existing data. And information system for executives. Executive information systems are especially developed for the use by top executives, as they often aggregate a broad array of data on an organization's internal and external affairs. Massive volumes of system, these detailed data are distilled into organized, understandable representations by an executive information system. This allows top managers to make educated strategic and tactical choices by keeping them up to speed on the overall state of their firm. Next, system of expertise. Expert system mimic human decision-making abilities by utilizing reasoning to acquire information based on the rules established by the persons who developed them. These systems are early instances of rudimentary artificial intelligence, and corporate executives may utilize them to discover answers to complicated challenges, even in specialized professional sectors like medical or engineering. Accounting and finances system. Organization may use an accounting information system to track their financial data, such as investments, income, and tax responsibilities. These systems are capable of performing financial audits and producing accounting reports. This assists finances professionals and corporate executives in streamlining the process of gathering or tracking accounting data.
Hello, Senator. I want to ask one question for you. What are the relations between those, if I may ask?
So to be effective in this endeavor, these experts must understand how to optimize business processes by developing a computer information system that can meet their organization's particular demands. For example, if a company is worried about staff productivity, IT personnel may leverage the current computer information system to collect and measure key indicators. The data collected by such a system may subsequently be utilized to create workplace regulations that promote more efficient use of worker hours.
Alright, thank you for our senior auditor.
You're most welcome.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions?
Yes.
Please proceed.
May I know what is auditing around the computer is?
So, the auditing around the computer indicates that the computer system's processing does not need to be audited, since the auditor expects to get sufficient relevant audit evidence by reconciling inputs and outputs. In other words, evidence is gathered and conclusions are formed without regard for how inputs are processed to produce outputs. It can also refer to auditing without the use of a computer system. However, the former is the more often accepted meaning of the term. Auditing around the computer is now considered an auditing strategy. It is also known as the black box audit technique.
And what is auditing through the computer?
Auditing through the computer is an integrated auditing entails collaborating with other auditors or teams, such as financial auditors or performance auditors. The field of computer-assisted audit tools, CAAT, or computer-assisted audit tools and techniques, is expanding within the IT audit profession. And during an integrated audit, the following areas are often examined: The business owner, information technology delivery and support organization, and integrated audit team all understand and agree on the business and information processing and controls.
Oh, now I understand. Thank you.
Okay, from what you understand, can you tell us what is the difference between those two?
Alright, for the auditing through the computer, so the definition is process of evaluating or auditing client software and hardware to determine the reliability of operations, while auditing around the computer is the process of evaluating a client's computer controls to determine the existence of the information system process. And next is the processing of financial data. Computer for auditing through the computer-assisted techniques where the processing transaction and record with errors and exception to see that program controls to operate. And for auditing around the computer, manually processing selected transaction and comparing result to with the output.
Okay, nice, good catch.
Okay, we're almost done. Let's proceed to the next topic.
Okay, may I know what are the testing approaches used by the audit team in auditing through the computer?
Okay, so there are 3 testing approaches that we use. Maybe our junior auditor would like to explain it to you, Mr. President.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, so the first one is analytical procedure. Analytical procedure are the method of assessing the financial information by analyzing trends, ratios, or relationship between data sets that include both financial and non-financial data. Auditors typically do this sort of audit by developing assumptions about normal transaction or account balance and comparing them to the client record. If auditor discover that the client record is inconsistent with their expectation, they will investigate the discrepancy. More substantial thing may be performed as part of the inquiry. For instance, an auditor may do the analytical technique on the interest expenditure account by multiplying the average interest rate by the average outstanding balance of borrowings. The auditor will next compare the outcome to the amount recorded by the customer. Any major discrepancy will be further studied. Second, inspection of records or documents. The practice of acquiring evidence through analyzing records or documents is known as inspection. This sort of audit operation can be carried out by vouching transaction records to supporting document or tracing supporting document or transaction record. The inspection technique, for example, can be used by auditor to evaluate the occurrence claim of expense transaction by vouching them to receive reports, supply invoices, and purchase order. That is this computer-assisted audit technique, CAAT. Computer-assisted audit technique cover auditing tools used in the field. This tool enable an auditor to get data in any format and evaluate it more effectively. CAAT comprises a variety of methodology that assist auditor in a variety of ways. Next is auditor may also study the client financial data using their own audit tools. The software may have sophisticated capability that process data in a certain way. With the increasing importance of big data, the use of such audit software has increased. Auditor can also tailor the produce to their audit objective. That's all from me.
Okay, good explanation. Just repeated, young man. Now may I know what are the documents you need to understand a client company ICS?
So the document needed to understand a company ICS. So audit documents obtained by auditors during a financial audit and recorded in the audit working papers. It is required by auditors to determine if a company has correct information considering their financial statements. A CPA may certify the company's financial accounts in the information if the information is correct. The principal foundation for an auditor's conclusion on whether there is a reasonable certainty that the company's financial statements are not significantly misstated owing to fraud or error is audit evidence. So to examine the company ICS, documents itself is not enough to examine their ICS. In order to understand the company internal control, first we have to do physical examination where the auditor performing the audit sees and certifies the presence of an asset. This is referred to as a physical inspection. A physical examination is frequently unavailable due to the nature of the audit. For example, if an auditor is evaluating payroll expenditures, the auditor cannot reasonably observe someone working the hours for which they will be compensated. Next, confirmation. Confirmation are third-party guarantees that the auditor receives directly. Confirmations are most used during audits of accounts payable and receivable. To confirm the balance of an account payable, the auditor can request that the vendor send a written confirmation of the balance owed directly to them. Account receivable and bank statements might be treated similarly. Lastly is the documentary evidence. Auditors will collect paperwork such as internal process documents, emails, or logs to aid in various aspects of the overall audit. As part of the audit procedures, auditors may utilize documents for vouching or tracing.
What are the most frequently asked questions about the internal control system based on the 4 components of the ICS?
Alright, for the control activities, does the management have a proper procedure to avoid access of confidential data from unauthorized personnel? Does segregation of duties implemented in every department to increase working efficiency? For the risk assessment, does the manager keep record of the inventory purchase and do physical checking on site? And does the manager do physical examination and asset purchase before making any payment to check if the assets are working well or have any defect? Next is the information and communication. Is there any communication between the sales team and the wages clerk before updating the monthly bonus? Does the wage clerk receive any confirmation regarding the details of the sales representative before proceeding to update the file? Last but not least, wage department. Does the company assemble a specific department to handle payroll system? And is the person in charge to handle the payroll reliable and trustworthy?
Okay, gonna keep that in mind.
So can the manager explain to us about the flowchart of our company's internal control?
Yeah, sure. Give me a minute. Okay, for your information, this company has 3 departments. First of all is sales department. Okay, first, there's customer in on-page connector. It will flow to the customer order in document symbol. The process that happened here is customer order the product, and then it will flow to the manual operation to perform credit control and setting credit limits. This is where employee perform credit control for customer. Then it will flow to valid sale, which is in document symbol. This is where employee confirming if customer is eligible to pay for the product. After that, it will go to the prepare customers order in manual operation. This is where employee prepare customer order from inventory. Then it will flow to the sales order in multiple copy of the document. Then finally, it will go to the file. The symbol D represent date. This is where employees keep record of customers in company records manually. For the second department is inventory control department. Okay, first of all, the sales order are in multiple copies of document. Will flow to the inventory control in input and output or journal or ledger. This is where employee update inventory control card. Then it will go to the packing slip in manual operation. The employee prepare packing where employee prepare packing slip. After that, it will keep flow to the multiple copies of document where there are sales and packing slip. This is where employee apportion packing slip into 3 documents. Then it will keep flowing to the update the inventory register master in computer processing. Yes, computer processing. This is where employee update inventory register master file. Then finally, it will flow to the master file itself, where employee keep inventory register to the master file. Then the last department is account receivable department. Okay, first of all is sales invoice in document symbol. It will separate into 2 flow. where the first one, it will go to the sales journal in input or output. This is where employee keep record of customers in sales journal. Then in sales journals, it will separate one more time. The first flow it will go to is the customer subsidiary ledger in input and output, where sales journal kept in a subsidiary ledger. And finally, it will flow to the file. D represent date, where employee prepare daily sales summary. Okay. For sales invoice that separate, it will go straight to the department, which is in terminal. This is where sales invoice are kept in account receivable department. Okay, for the sales journal, which are separate, it will flow to the daily summary report in document symbol, where employee prepare daily sales summary. Then the daily sales summary report will flow to the department, where department in terminal, where daily sales summary report get in account receivable.
Okay, now I understand.
Thank you for the explanation.
May I know what is subsequent event as stated under ISA 50560?
I can explain it to you.
Please proceed.
ISA 560 subsequent events outlines the auditor responsibilities in relation to subsequent events. For the purpose of ISA 560, subsequent events are those events that occur between the reporting date and the date of approval of the financial statement and the signing of the auditor reports. The overall goal of ISA 560 is to ensure that the auditor perform audit procedure designed to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence to provide reasonable assurance that all events will occur up to the expected date of the auditor report have been identified. There are two types of subsequent event under ISA 506, which are: the first type consists of occurrences that give further evidence about conditions that existed on the balance sheet date and alter the estimation inherent in the financial statement preparation process. When the bank should evaluate the condition on which the projection were based using all the information that became available prior to the release for the financial statement. The second type includes occurrences that offer evidence for situation that did not exist on the date of the balance sheet being reported on but emerged after that date. These occurrences should not need a financial statement change. Some of these occurrences, however, may be of such a type that disclosure is essential to avoid misleading financial statement. Occasionally, such an occurrence may be so substantial that it's better disclosed by supplementing the historical financial statement with pro forma financial data that treats the event as if it's occurred on the balance sheet date. On the face of the historical statement, it may be beneficial to display pro forma statements, generally on a balance sheet, in columnar style.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I think that's the end of the meeting. Thank you all for attending. We appreciate your time and commitment in this meeting.
Thank you for your time and your cooperation in this meeting.
No problem. Thank you. See you too.
Thank you.